with tips, if you're a massage therapist in the field, more than likely you come to accept tips. And I myself, when I had my business, it seemed weird, but when somebody tried to give me a tip, I'd say, "Oh, you don't have to tip me just because I'm the owner," because that's some kind of. Sometimes people think that way, and I myself, I didn't want people to feel obligated to tip just because, again, I'm the owner and I was getting most of the money anyways when I had my business. Places that you can get tips are most every place that you're giving massages in. With spas and salons, you're going to see a lot more tips, more than likely. Private practices also. But chiropractic office, maybe not as much. And hospitals, probably hardly at all then. But you want to make sure you check with the rules and regulations of the place that you're working and see if it's okay to accept tips then too. Because with tips, technically you're supposed to claim tips. So check with your accountant to make sure whether you're supposed to claim them or not, and up to a certain percentage. So again, every state's different about the rules and regulations with accepting tips. And with tips is never expect them, because that's why some places will hire you at a really low percentage or hourly rate or whatever, and they'll say, "Oh, well, this is really low, but you're going to get a lot of tips then, and it'll definitely make up for it, and you're going to average like $20 or $30 an hour on average." But again, do not rely on tips, because it's really frustrating if you're not going to make that and you're just going to rely on that too much, again, with the whole tip thing. And with tips too, the average is like $5 to $10. I've known some places it might be $10 to $20, and I've seen I've heard of some people getting tips even $100 or more. But you got to be careful that. So let's say you kind of felt these vibes that the client might think you're attractive or something, and then let's say they gave you $100 tip or something. Question that and whether to give that person another massage again, because again, they might just be nice, but it's that's a really high tip, and it's really weird to accept that big of amount then. And with tips, I'd like to know what your average tip is, or where you live. So in the comment section below, put where you the city or the state that you live, and what you typically will get for a tip, and also put what where you're working at. So if it's more of a spa salon or a chiropractic office, all those different avenues. But the problem is when people give you a tip on a credit card, you definitely have to claim that then, and that's what's frustrating, because again, that's more convenient for people, is to just put the tip on the credit card. But again, cash is always king. But again, for legal wise, make sure you check with your accountant the rules and regulations with that, because again, you don't want to get in trouble if you're not claiming tips and you're supposed to be claiming tips. So that's my whole video on tips. And again, just don't come to expect tips. And what I've noticed is the more richer the person looks, so the more dolled up and everything else, less likely to get as big a tip then. So the more average average looking client, and they're not so dolled up and everything else, you might see a little bit bigger tip. So that's just what I've noticed through all these years with the whole tip thing for massage then. So again, not a lot of professions receive tips. I mean, it's as much as you think about many years ago, but again, we're one of the few professions that still kind of accept tips and expect them in a way too. So again, you can look at just like a waiter or a waitress. Typically, it's the 12% to 15%. Don't quote me on that, because I've never been a waiter. But with that you can percentage it out and how much you should typically get for that then. And what's frustrating is, let's say you're working in a spa or salon, and they got like 5 treatments that day. So they got their nails did, and they had their hair done, and but they like evening body wraps, and then they had a massage from you. Sometimes they'll just put a one tip that everybody has to share then, and then it's going to be a lot less tips, of course, in those circumstances. And when I worked in a salon, when I got tips, what we'd do is the front desk person would put the tips in a certain drawer for each person then. But what's frustrating is I've known in the past of let's say a regular client that tips, and then this time they didn't tip, so it's kind of a little bit shady that way. So that's why I really prefer the client to give the tip to the person. And another thing, sometimes the client will just lay the tip on the massage table, so that's why it's a good idea to always turn on the light and then take all the sheets off the table then. Because I've known some therapists that'll just corner, wrap everything up, and then throw everything in the laundry then. And then hopefully you'll find out afterwards, and the money actually survives and stuff. But let's say you're using a laundry service and you don't manually do the laundry yourself then. So that's what's so frustrating then. So that's my advice with tips. And again, leave your comments in the section below of what city and state you live in, and how much you typically will give, that you will receive for a tip on average then. So again, comments in the section below. Thank you. Appreciate it.